parked right outside the middle school. And last week, the referee actually told people not, this park district does not allow a park district. Usually it's high school kids, the referee, but it was actually a park district employee this time. It two people who had dogs.
Okay,
All right,
live and we are ready.
we are ready to go. I hereby call to order this FY 2025 budget meeting for Milburn CC School District 24, public hearing to order at 7 p.m. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
John Benson,
Here.
Brendan Murphy,
Here.
Peter Petrini,
Here.
Jillian Phelps, here, John Ruggles,
Here.
Brad Stetstrom.
Here.
And Lisa Wooster.
Let's rise for the flag.
Lisa is here.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Budget presentation.
Right. So a couple months ago, back in August, we went through a pretty lengthy budget presentation. I don't think today we're going to go through that slide by slide. But Dr. Linda, if you could go scroll down to the business office, presentation or.
On the regular agenda?
Yes, on the regular agenda. And
Sure.
go to page 2. I'll go over just the changes that have been made to the budget since the original review of it in August, and they're very slight changes.
Here?
The down to the next page, where the business office or business department presentation, look where it is, yep. And page 2. Scroll down to the gray tables, I think, a little bit further.
Okay.
Okay, so these are just listing the 9 funds within the budget. And really the only changes were to Fund 10, the education fund. So in revenue, the update to the budget is anticipating about just over $10,000 less in revenue. I moved some of the expected revenue from Fund 10 to Fund 60 for that veterans property tax relief grant that we anticipate getting again this year. If you recall, last May, I believe we got just over $200,000 out of the blue. I think originally I put that in Fund 10, but I'm moving some of it to capital projects because we'll probably put that towards a bigger project rather than just smaller things under Fund 10. And then a slight increase to expenses, just over $8,000 in additional expenses. So really that's the only change. If you'd like, we can pull up the budget presentation from August and go over any questions that anyone has.
So at this point, we have a balanced budget, barely. And as Carly said earlier this year, when we get into December, we're gonna try and track where we're at with our expenditures and revenues, and we will probably have to do an amendment at some point. Almost guaranteed that we'll have to do some sort of amendment, which we do every year, but we'll track and see where that goes and do that time.
If we scroll up just a little bit more, that is the current tab of the budget that shows that there is a balanced budget. So that just looks at funds 10, 20, 40, and 70. Those are the operating funds. But as Dr. Lynn noted, it's pretty tight, just under $30,000.
We may do better than that,
Right.
you know, depends on if it hits this year's budget and last year's, but where things land, so.
So my plan for, December is to give a small presentation of where expenditures and revenues are for these funds. I think we'll have a better idea then on what the amendment will look like. But we'll do a mid-year check-in around that time.
Do we typically do conservative estimates, so we don't have any big movies, or we usually raise it then on our estimates?
When it comes to revenue, especially with interest, I've been on the more conservative side this year, or not this year, every year, which is why last year we did do the amendment. Because interest came in a lot higher than expected. So I would say more on the conservative side. Just so that there are not large surprises.
That is good. Our goal is to be within a couple of percent at the end of the year. And that's not easy to do, given that this process starts now for next year. So we're already thinking about the next budget and having all those variables in place. It's really hard to get too precise, and you want to make sure that we have the money available when we need it. But one thing, we've gotten a little bit more aggressive in the last few years, I'd say, as far as tighter, less conservative on the budgeting, just because our fund balances are at a point now where they should be, and we have some room. So if we're off a little bit by a couple of percent, it's not going to break us as far as our budgeting or put us in a really bad position financially. So that's good. That's a good space to be in.
This isn't on the agenda for the regular meeting to approve though today?
It is.
I've not seen it.
It's blue.
There we go. Yep, there we go. Yep, it is
6B.
blue.
I know the agenda is long and.
Okay.
Big.
Thank you.
Job.
All right, so our presentation's good. Do we have any residents that want to present concerning the FY 2025 budget? Madam Secretary.
No.
All right, then. Thank you for coming, and we can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then let's go on to let's call the regular meeting to order at 7:07. I don't think we need to have another roll call. Don't need to do the pledge again. Public comments.
We do not have any.
All right. Any addition of non-action items? Nothing, we're going fast. Action items. Second reading.
Okay, so we have the policies that are presented to approve tonight. We've posted them for a couple of meetings now. They've been reviewed. The press policy, I'm just going to explain what's posted on the website. The press policy is not how it's going to look once it's approved. Once it gets approved and posted, it won't have all of the footnotes on there. That's just so that you can see, or we can see, where the legal references are and the choice that, sometimes I put in the footnotes. If you're an elementary district, you don't have to have this, or you can choose the number of days on getting back to people. And there's a couple of policies where you have choices that you could modify it, but Peter and Brennan looked at these and did not see anything that was outstanding or controversial or anything.
No, I mean, no real updates from the last time I spoke on it. It's all just verbiage change, nothing
Yeah.
controversial. It's pretty run-of-the-mill stuff.
The biggest changes are in the Title IX policies. They expand the coverage under sexual harassment to more gender, so that's different. For Illinois, it's not as different as it is in some states because we already have law that covers those protections, so it wasn't as big a change. However, one of the bigger changes was the training that we had to go through. So all of our administrative team went through a 3-hour training with our attorneys on how to implement this should someone make a complaint. So. We should be ready to go, and hopefully we never will have to go through that process, but. Certainly could.
Thanks, guys, for doing that.
Okay, thank you guys. Gentlemen, since you did the work.
Can we approve these as a group?
Yes.
Okay, I move to approve the board policies as listed under action items A.
Second.
Since it's not money, we don't need a roll call. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. All right, down to the budget.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the budget.
Move to approve the fiscal year 25 budget.
Second.
All right, Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
John Renson.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Peter Petrini.
Yes.
Jillian Phelps. Yes. John Ruggles.
Yes.
Fred Stepstrom.
Yes.
And Lisa Brewster. Yes. Okay, motion passed.
All right, approval of intergovernmental agreement, LC Smart.
Okay, that's Lake County Smart, and I, again, can't remember what it stands for, but it's Lake County, the ROE put it together. It's an intergovernmental agreement with all school districts in Lake County that they want us to approve, so that if there's an emergency and we need to send support, maybe we need to send could be a truck, it's a truck to another school to help out, or custodians, or in the past, we've sent social workers to other school. It gives us all the protections that we need to handle a crisis and all pull together for the resources that we have, so. It's a good idea to do, and my recommendation is to approve it.
The costs are pretty minimal.
Yeah.
It's like 250?
250 this
Yeah.
year,
I'm good with that.
and they have a accelerator for next year to 400. I think that's pretty good, and that's just to manage some of the costs, just to set up the attorney fees. It's been looked at by our attorney firm, a couple other attorney firms, the attorney, the Lake County State's Attorney. So everybody's in a sheriff's department is in a.
All right, well, since it doesn't go money. But I didn't mention.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement LC Smart.
Second.
All right, Madam Secretary.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Peter Petrini.
Yes.
Jillian Phelps. Yes. John Ruggles.
Yes.
Fred Stepstrom.
Yes.
Lisa Brewster. Yes. And John Renson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Oh, the convention center. Okay.
Yes, we finally got a bid on the convection steamer that we need badly.
So the elementary school here at both schools, the kitchens use a convection steamer to cook food. The one at the elementary school is over 25 years old and only half of it works. So they're down half of their cooking equipment there. So I held a bid on Friday, got 3 bids in on time, 1 came late. The low bid went to Douglas Equipment in the amount of $26,419. That's for the steamer installation and a water filtration system that would be attached to it. So Dr. Lynn and I are asking the board to approve the purchase of that steamer from Douglas Equipment.
And that came in a little bit lower than we expected, right?
Yes, so we got a quote last year for about the same.
Okay.
That didn't include installation or the water filtration system, so it's pretty good. The highest bid was just over 34,000, and then there was one right in the middle as well.
So like, what did the 34 provide us anything special, like warranty work or?
All the same warranty because the bid included the specifics of the warranty that we were seeking. With all the bids, there's always a very wide range, no matter if it's seal coating or any project we're doing. Just oddly, a very wide range comes through.
What happens to the old one?
They, this price includes the disposal of the old one. I mean, it's really not functioning, so we wouldn't be able to sell it. Or anything like that.
Was this in the budget we just looked?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And now we're not balancing, we did eat up the 29,000.
3,000 left.
Okay.
Question,
Getting
it's in the
tight.
budget.
Okay.
We're also, and the reason I had to do a very formal bid through that with this is because, we're likely using federal dollars through the National School Lunch Program, to pay for either all or most of it. So because of that, we have to follow a very, detailed process, a lot of documentation. So it's in the budget. Yes.
In talking to Tim Smith too, he mentioned the other day that he was talking to the repair guy who was gonna probably be doing the installation. He said this is a better steamer than what we had. And a better one than some of the other ones that have been hired. They're having problems with repairs on some of the other brands that have been recently installed in schools. So he said, good. I was happy to hear it.
We called the repair person, General Parts is who does a lot of our kitchen repairs, and we started just talking with them about the different steamers that came through on all the quotes, just to understand what we're getting, though we are required to go with a low bidder on this, but it's a good product.
And this will be on the December amendment, or,
It's
It's
in the
already-
budget already.
so it is, okay. So we're still at 29 or at 30?
Yeah, 29 today.
All right,
I move to approve the purchase of convection steamer from Douglas Equipment in the amount of $26,419.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Peter Petrini,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
John Ruggles.
Yes.
Fred Stepson,
Yes.
Lisa Looster. Yes. John Lorenzen.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you.
All right. Consent agenda.
So just a clarification on, it's my presumption that the resignation substitute teachers are ones who replied negative to the letter, reasonable assurance letter, and the terminations are people who never replied. That was my presumption, just wanted to.
After several attempts. And that's okay, we do that every year.
Yeah,
And some might come back. I don't-
Any other questions?
Did you leave on bad terms?
No,
Okay, that's good.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
John Ruggles.
Yes.
Fred Stepson,
yes.
Lisa Looster. Yes. John Lorenzen.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
And Peter Petrini.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Oh, yeah.
okay, this is a FOIA request by Smart Procure that seems to hit us every once in a while, and so we will take care of it. And we have to put that on the agenda if there's a FOIA request, so there it is.
Tax levy.
Excellent.
Future agenda.
We got the.
Oh, residents, oh, I missed those. Dang it.
I know, and I missed the budget on there. I don't know.
Okay, Public Act, salary and benefits report.
So this also something we have to post on the website, so there it is posted and presented at a board meeting. Got it.
Residency check update.
Okay, so I asked Veronica to do a little bit of residency, just a summary of where we're at with residency this year, because we changed what we have been doing, and we're trying to tighten up our residency process. Make sure that we're consistent, because we don't want we don't want a different residency process between schools within our districts, which we don't very often, but sometimes people will say something or interpret something differently. That can happen. But between us and the high school as well, it gets goofy if people try to register at the high school. And then they try to register here and one of us says no. We're trying to tighten that up. We're also trying to make sure that the people that we're protecting our assets and within our community and that people are going here that should be going here so that we can use our resources for the kids that need it within our district. And it's the law, so we're trying to follow the law. So we hired National Investigations. It's a little bit rocky at first. We're still trying to figure out how to work with them. They are sometimes a little bit rough and stern when they go to houses. And so I've gotten some feedback on that. We've given that feedback to say, in our community, that doesn't play very much. There's also a couple of mistakes on addresses that they made, because in our district, there's one subdivision that has 2 streets over. It's the exact same numbers, but one is avenue and one is lane. Exact same numbers. You'd think they could at least switch the numbers, but those were flipped, and so there was confusion. I think Ben and I visited both of their houses. Confirmed it's okay, and we apologize. So what we do is we ran all of our families last spring that registered and are coming back to school. They run through a database, and in that database, then it flags a certain number of people or clears a certain number of people. So most of our families cleared after the first run, because there's evidence, there's bills and tax bills, and we know you live there, you're there, done. There's evidence. Then there's a certain amount of families that were flagged that we know, okay, we know the story. Could be my neighbor and I see them going in and out their house every day, and they're clear, we can clear them. And then there's a certain number of families that didn't get cleared. And we asked National to investigate. And what they do is, if there's an address that was provided outside the district, they start with the address that's outside the district. And they work their way. So if they go knock on their door in Lake Villa School District, and they're there, then they give them a notice and say, this is where our evidence shows that you live here. You are not in the Milburn district. You need to register in the Lake Villa School District, and we will let the Milburn district know. And so there were 20 of those-ish kids, families. Then it got narrowed down. Once they did a little bit more investigation, it narrowed down to 10. There was 10 families that did not contest that rule. So National gave them a letter. That was it. They're out. There's 3 families that contested. One of those is now registered. Just because they contest doesn't mean they get in. They just contested and tried to prove residency through another means. I believe one of those families is now registered in another school district in the area, and 2 more are still contested, but are not registered here.
So they're going somewhere else right now while they're contesting to come. They're just not going. Oh, that's.
And what was our, how much did we pay for the service? Was it like $7 grand?
I thought it was gonna be $7 grand. It turned out to be 10 because there were more people that we investigated. So we pay them a certain amount up front with the initial screening. And then whichever house they go, it's an hourly rate. So we've paid 10,000. And now we know how to use them. So they were doing more investigating than we needed them to at first. So we've figured out how to use them effectively, only on the ones that we want to have investigated.
And we spend about 18 grand per student. And
Yep.
so with a 10 no contest, that's 180K. Good return.
It's a good return. And now it'll be easier next year. First of all, parents will know this is not. No, we're serious. You have to prove that you live in the district. It's really hard to say no to people. And I'm very pleased that people want to come into our district. This is great. That's wonderful, but it's our role too, to follow law, and it gets really mucky when some are allowed and some are not. So we have a very clear, and Veronica's very good about, no, this is what you need. This is what you have to give us. You have to prove that you're a resident before you can get in, or before you can be, like for early childhood, before you can be assessed. Because we're spending $4,000 per student just on an assessment process for early childhood students.
Is that reflected in this budget then too?
Which part? The $10,000?
The 180 that.
Well, then we're not,
It's not
then
direct.
it basically gets reinvested into the other students we have. It's not like we,
It's not like a direct.
Yeah.
line.
but essentially then for the other 1,000 students that are here.
I assume some of that would be no, yes, no.
Have we ever had it where it's the opposite true? Where people have been found staying here or,
Not coming here when they can.
yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine that.
No, I'm not.
really?
I mean, if they go to a parochial school, maybe. I'm guessing not by
Parochial
accident.
No. Nope. So I just wanted to fill the board in on that process and let you know. I think it was good. I think we learned some things for next year. It's hard. We want to make sure that people who are following the law, who are doing it right, we're not. They're not feeling like we're trying to kick them out. We don't want any of that.
Now, is that fee based on the number of bands? So let's say there's only 4 next year. Is it still 10,000?
No. They charge by the hour.
Oh.
So it's $75 an hour or something to do an investigation, and it's an hour and a half per. With their travel and everything.
Cheap.
It's not too bad. There's other districts, Gurney 56 has hired a retired police officer, or maybe he's part-time police officer to do their investigation, so they have one person that does it as a part-time role in their district. They have more people trying to register in their district than we can.
That was across both schools.
Any more questions? All right, now the tax levy.
Yes, tax levy will be on the future now that we have the budget for FY 25. Now we start by 26. Whee!
Yeah.
So the tax levy is pretty straightforward. We're gonna get, I think it's 3.4% was the CPI last year, so whatever we collected in this budget, we'll take from the local 3.4% additional. What we will also get is we won't be abating taxes next year. So that'll be another 700, 800, 800.
Over 800.
Over 800,000. Not good news for us taxpayers. Well, that's all of us, taxpayers, but good news for the school district. So we'll get 800,000 in additional that we won't be abating next year. So that will help us for next year. And then the year out. So this year was tight, and I think I've been saying that for the last couple of years. This one's gonna be the tight one. Next year will be a little bit better, and then the following year, again, tight. And after that, if I thought maybe we'd be in deficit spending this year, and there's still a chance we will, but if we're going to get to that point soon. And that's when we would have to go back to the community and ask for more money. Which is never fun. But we're a couple years away from that.
Yeah, they included I don't have it at a good for it, so I won't use it. The increase in the valuations that I know I and all of my neighbors got in our house.
Yeah.
So that's already in our numbers.
No, that
Okay,
has,
because-
that doesn't impact our numbers at all.
Okay, so how does that, I know you mentioned this,
Yeah.
so,
So that's a good question, because I want to explain that a little bit, and I was
Yes,
hoping more of
please.
our community would be here, because I think that's their concern. So I did, had the opportunity to talk to the Warren Township assessor, which assesses some of our properties in the district, mostly the kids that go to Warren High School. We chatted on Saturday, we were doing a highway cleanup on Unclub Road for the Rotary, so that was fun. But he was telling me that like Villa this year did 13.5% across the board. So last year was the quadrennial, yeah. Quadrennial, where everybody's equalized back. So for example, when I bought my house in 2018-ish, 2019, that was at the low point in the market. Taxes were lowered. Now, so it was probably a little bit lower than most of my neighbors because they were still assessed at higher levels. Now, that's coming back and they're all equalized. So I would be equalized with all of the houses in my neighborhood. They basically have a formula per square feet. They might have bathrooms that each area does a little bit different. Bedroom, bathroom, square foot formula that they plug in, and that's what it is, and it equalizes. That's the assessor's job, is to make the tax fair. So that John's not paying more than I'm paying based on his house. So if John's house is worth $500,000 on the market, and my house is worth $500,000, we're paying the same taxes. That's the assessor's job, is to equalize. So that, like Villa this year, they did their goofy assessment last year, not goofy, but they tried to equalize everything out, start over, reset. This year, they just did a 13.5% across the board increase. So all of us that live in the Lake Villa Township assessors, which would be all of Lindenhurst, basically, we got a 13% increase on our valuation. Now that valuation goes into the total amount that we can pull from the total value. We can only take this year's, let's say 10 million. Next year, we get 10 million plus 3.4%. That's what we can take, but since they went up 13%, what changes the variable is that rate that gets us the 1.34 million.
so our rate should actually go down.
0.034. Our rates will go down.
Right.
Rates will go down. We'll get a little bit more money, but we're not getting 13.5%, which is what people misunderstand about taxes when they get that blue sheet that we just got. They're a little bit concerned. Like, oh my goodness, my house went up 13.5%. I'm gonna have to pay. No, we're a tax capped district. In Southern Illinois, that would be true. You'd go up 13.5%. But we're a tax capped district, so we can only go up CPI.
Just the school district, are there others on there?
All the taxing
Oh,
bodies.
okay.
Now, there's certain funds that are not capped. This is where it gets fun, and Harley can go into great detail. When we do the levy. There are certain funds that are not capped. And then there's another cap, like there's the ed fund used to be capped at 3.5, which was a problem when our values were dropping and our rates were going way up. You know, we're bumping up against that maximum in the ed fund that we could levy. Thankfully, that's gone away. I don't think they can cap that anymore. That went away a few years ago because of that issue. School districts were really hurting because of it. So that's where we have the adjustments, and what the levy process does is determine what goes into each fund, which funds are capped, which funds are not capped, and then we ask the taxpayers, this is what we want to collect. It goes to the county then collects it for us and gives it back to us. Did that answer the question? Yep. So we only get 3.4%. The key is we can only get 3.4%. So all things being equal, everybody that's in the Lake Village Township, unless somebody argues their taxes or for whatever reason goes down, that might not be a good year to do it, because if you just purchased your house, it's probably gonna be purchased at a price above what it's assessed at, the assessed value. So you could get your taxes raised.
I think it's good to point out too, I don't know if you made it public, but it was in some of the stuff you sent out. Compared to some of the other school districts, we're doing pretty good as far as where we're at and how much money we're spending. You guys
Yes.
see that?
I was going over some notes and playing stuff out of the house. I found my 2017 tax bill. My point was, the one that just did it, was it 2023?
Yeah.
2024? My current tax bill, the one we just paid, was like $200 lower than the one in 2017. So we're doing pretty good, guys.
Right, and a lot of that was due to the building. We were growing so fast, we needed room. And so we had to borrow large amounts of money to build these buildings 20 years ago. And so that was the necessity of that. And then the building stopped and enrollment shrunk, and now we have these assets. So what I also want to mention today, so I gave the board a bunch of questions on my notes on Friday to ask. And these are questions that I would ask if I was wondering if is the school district being fiscally responsible. And I can go into great detail on this because I really like the operational aspect of the district. And I think we have two halves. This is a business to some degree. And it sometimes feels like it's not caring, or it's not about kids. We should just be about kids, but it is caring, because we have to make sure that we have the resources available to the kids, not just today, but in the future, to be able to spend on them. It involves people too, when we talk about teacher salaries and we talk about paraprofessional salaries, that there's a people aspect of all that we do financially, and it becomes very important. It's also very important to taxpayers that they know that we're being responsible with the money, because they also are on income. And if they're spending money on taxes, they're not spending it on something else either. This is all choices, and we chose to live in this district. Most of us chose purposely to live in this district for the schools, and that's an important piece for that as well. So everything weaves together, and it's a big, huge, complex system that we're working in, but it's important for us to communicate out some of these pieces of information. So I'm going to start doing that, because I think at some point, not next year, probably not the year after, maybe the next 3 years, some point before I retire, unfortunately, I'm going to have to run another referendum, which is the worst thing in the world. But I think it's going to have to be done, and we need to start communicating this out. For sure, we need $10 million in the next 8 years just to maintain our facilities, which kind of makes me gag. But the steamer, $26,000. All of this the newest part of this building is now 25 years old. And what happens on our houses when it's 25 years old? You got the furnace, you got the AC, you got the roof, you got the siding. Some houses you have the windows. We have parking lots and roof at both buildings that are going to need to be replaced or maintained in some fashion.
I think we should put that kind of stuff out, though, as
Yeah.
someone who can't stand taxes, then nobody does, like when we're looking at dollars spent per student's score, and we're ranked very, very high, that should be communicated. I mean, it's patting the district on, we're patting ourselves on the back, but that's what you want, right? I mean, you want your, all else being equal, to your spend per student and your students are doing better, that's really what you want. So so when someone does say, I can't believe I'm paying these high taxes here, and you say, well, this is why.
Yes, exactly. And people will question anytime, no one like you said, no one likes to pay taxes. And the immediate response when there's financial pain, because money is emotion, it's all kinds of, money means a lot of different things. And the less you have, more it means something. So it's pretty emotional for some people. They need to know what it's going for, and they should be asking some of these questions. But so when people will jump to the assumption that there's mismanagement because my taxes are so high. The teachers are making too much money, no, what's your evidence for that? Superintendent makes too much money. That one might be true, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Then you can have that conversation and say, okay, let's talk about this, and where's your evidence to say that there's mismanagement? And not say, okay, I'm gonna go through a couple of these questions, because this is part of my goals this year and our district goals is financial management and facilities management and getting a picture of the years to come. So here's some questions. Do we have a spending problem or a revenue problem? So I would say, is this a spending problem or revenue problem? Milburn is under the average for Lake County and under the state average for spending per pupil still, which is pretty amazing considering that, as you can see here, this is our expenditures. They've been going up and our enrollment's been going down at the same time. So our per pupil is higher now than it used to be. Ranking. Because we're still have the same number of books in the library, pretty much. We still have lights that we have to maintain in the space we have to clean for fewer kids. So your per pupil expenditure is gonna go up, but it's still below average. So that's pretty good. But we're gonna watch that and make sure that stays in reach. You could also look at the revenues. Do we have more revenues than other districts? No. Nope. Our revenues are lower than most districts on a per student basis. Then we can start talking taxes and burden and who's paying for that. We're 20, so if I look at this is Munetrix. So this is our goal, is to have a district outward publicly facing dashboard. The public's not gonna see all this because it's too much, and we have to whittle it down into what's gonna be good publicly facing. And I can't figure out how to do that yet, so that's my goal this year. There's all kinds of data that we can look at easily and give it to people to show this. So of the 34 school districts, we're 21st in expenditure per pupil in the county. That's pretty good. Do we spend more or less on our neighboring schools? So if you look in this area in the county on operations, so you can look overall and then you say, oh, well, are you spending it all on operations or are you spending it on instruction? So let's look at operations versus instructional. We're 21st of 34 spending per student in instructional, or no, 21st in operational, 16th of 34 for instructional. So we're higher in instructional than we are in operations. So our operations expenditures are lower than relatively than our operational expenditure when you break those two out. That's a good thing. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be as efficient as possible with our operations so that we have more money to spend directly on instruction, because that's why we're here. Our mission statement has nothing in it to say that we want beautiful buildings. Maybe we do, but that's not why we exist. We don't exist to be a beautiful building, we exist to instruct kids. Then what you're alluding to, John, does Milburn have a good return on investment? We looked at spending versus scores, and I picked Barrington and North Shore because they have about the same number of free and reduced lunches we do, same number of average household income that we do, so their socioeconomic is similar to ours, the most similar. On instructional expenditures, we are sixth of all the school districts in Lake County and third in our eighth grade math scores. I chose eighth grade math scores because I could choose other grades and it might be better or worse, but I want to know where our kids are leaving us, not where they start. Picking Barrington and the North, so that was everybody. Sorry, jumping back. Barrington, we're 12 points higher than Barrington on our and Highland Park 112, 12 points math higher, $3,000 lower in expense per student in instructional expense. That's a good return on our investment. We've got some excellent staff members, as you know, and we work hard to teach our kids what we can. We also have supportive parents. It's a good community where we support each other and it's working. Speaking of teachers, do we pay too much, too little? We're 21st of 37 for compensation per FTE overall. But it's about $757 less than the average, so it's right at the average. How is Milburn maximizing assets? So we have the assets, because of our declining enrollment, found ourselves with extra space, extra building space. How can we use that space to our benefit? We can't make money as a school district. We don't want it. We're not in the rental business. But we have this asset. How can we work with other school districts, and maybe we don't want to be paying for lights and cleaning and other stuff that we're not using. So other school districts like CEDAL, Special Ed District of Lake County, leases, rents space from us. There's also a money in that for administrative purposes as well, because it's a stress on the administrative part and teachers. We are able to invest more in teachers. So part of that housing is because we have space, we're able to do that, and it offsets some of these costs. So we're using that asset. We also branch out to a private preschool program, Red Apple. We rent space and just get it. We also rent our 4 gyms. We are blessed as an elementary school to have 4 elementary district, to have 4 full-size gyms, which is pretty amazing. And we rent those out almost every night during the school year. So there's revenue that we get from that as well. So we're trying to maximize what we have, not worry too much about what we don't have. So this is the reason I'm sharing all this, is because it's appropriate to start talking about this with our community, with our public, because at some point we're going to hit that downward curve. That's just the way Illinois school finance is set up. There's no question about it. So we will have to ask people for money, and we need a big chunk for the buildings. And operations is going to need something at some point, or the Ed fund is going to need some at some point too. So that's it. That's why we're communicating out. We're going to have a parent university on this on November 4th. There'll be 2 choices that night for parent university. Parent university is the other part of the goals for this year was community connections, building community connections. So parent university is part of that series. We start Wednesday with our first one, and then there's one October 15th, and then there's 2 now on November 4th, I believe. It's one of them will be about the finances. Why is my school so broke when my taxes are so high? Which I get a lot. Explaining some of this. I'm going over this, and we're going to start to send out information, and not just information, but telling stories about why this is important and what this means, because people need to feel how important it is and what we can do, what we're doing for our kids. Our kids are, we do special things like 24-hour challenge for our kids in Timberley, Springfield. We have great resources in the library with space. This is an amazing space. We have a STEM lab that is the best that I have seen in my county. Our STEM lab and our programming is, I have not seen any yet, and we've modeled after Barrington, and I think ours is now better than Barrington. So we've got some great things happening. So I hit on the financial aspect of the goals. We want strong facilities, solid facilities, stable financing. We want, the second goal was community connections. So we talked about Parent University. The website, we had our first meeting today. We're starting to migrate our current website over into a new website that will probably take us till March. That is a massive project, and one wouldn't think so, but there's so many details and decisions just on choosing this stupid color for the banners takes probably 10 minutes. So that's gonna take a while, and our tech team is on top of that. And then Munetric, this will be the dashboard that will be outwardly facing. Munetrics also has a second component to this, which leads into the academic side. So they have an early warning system. Once that's up and running, we're having some issues getting our data to match theirs. And Munetrics just merged with another big company that does more of the academic piece. So it'll be a data warehousing system where we can use that to pinpoint where we need to get the resources to the kids. I'm very excited about that. So I think I've hit on everything that I wanted to talk about tonight. 3 goal areas: academics, building community connections, and facilities and finance. All right. Harley?
I just have one thing. So we had our audit last week. It kicked off last week. Everything is going well. They will be reaching out to us for the next few weeks, I'm sure. The goal is to wrap the audit up by November, but they're looking for one person from the board, one volunteer to meet with them. Is it you last year, Brendan?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
it was you, it was 2 years ago.
okay.
It was so traumatizing.
Fun. The word is fun.
I just said, I don't know the whole time. I'll do that again. I'll do it again.
Okay, you're fine if they give you a call?
yeah.
Okay, doesn't have to be in person. I will, give them your contact information and they will reach out.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Board reports.
Shout out to Jazzo and Yost and chaperones and teachers who put on a fun 24-hour challenge. That was my daughter's year to do it, and she's still talking about it. I was there a lot of times too. It was hot, but the 6th graders really got a treat, and the Timberley coming up too. What a great introduction we do for our 6th graders to middle school. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to build community and something that's unique to our district, and getting the parents. I love seeing the parents interact with their kids and the other parents. Pretty cool. Pretty good event. And there weren't not too much drama. There's always a little bit. It was hot, so there's a couple of kids that were thrown out.
It rained right after everybody set up the tents.
It rained right after. It's always kind of.
Thursday night, it rained a little bit too. It's all dry by 9 o'clock. It was so hot.
That's a good event.
I was also there. It was nice. I don't know what the PE teachers do other than play music. That's all they were doing.
They're right around.
They right around that golf cart,
They
making sure.
were
everybody's doing-
playing the music left and right, so they were having a lot of fun.
They were. They put a lot of steps into, even though the golf cart, Mr. Yost said he put in 33,000 steps.
Wow.
That's sweet.
That was a lot.
That's a lot.
They're on their feet a lot.
Anything else? All right, well, then. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's go home, guys.
You do need signatures.